Yeah, I remember there was one friend of mine that once my name was finally released, he texted me and he was like, I can't believe this. I've been simping over Lady D for months and now I find out that it's you and now it's awkward.
Hi, this is Ollie from GameByte, and today I have a special treat for you. I recently got to sit down with Maggie Robertson, the voice actress and motion capture performer for Lady Dimitrescu in Resident Evil Village. She sort of plays the matriarch of the game's vampire clan. So, without further ado, here is the interview, and if you do like the video, please give us a like and a subscribe because it really helps us out.
Oh God. Wow, I'm a hot mess this morning, apparently. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. The weather is uncharacteristically hot for the UK this time of year, but
Oh my gosh.
it's great. I can't wait to get out in the sun after the day has ended.
Take a walk, yeah.
It's lovely to meet you.
It's lovely to meet you. I'm ready. I'm so here and I'm so ready, and let's do this.
Let's start with like your origins, I guess. Like, what was the earliest memory that you have of acting?
I love the way you phrased it because it makes me sound like a superhero, which is thrilling. My origin story is funny because on paper, I have been acting for a very long time. I started acting when I was in high school, but even that was kind of an accident. I fell into the opportunity and then just followed where life seemed to be taking me. I don't think I became really passionate about acting and considered myself an actor until I got to college. In high school, acting was just fun. It was a way for me to hang out with my friends, and I happened to be good at it. But in college, I had a liberal arts education, and so I was able to take all of my different interests. That was part of my problem, is I couldn't decide on what I wanted to do. I didn't know how to pick any one thing. And then I realized that acting allowed me to do it all because it is psychology and history and philosophy and political science and sociology and music and all of these things wrapped into one. And so that's when I really fell in love with it. So I started acting seriously in college, moved back home to the DC area. I'm from Virginia, and started doing regional theater there. And then I decided to go off to grad school to really delve into training, and went to Lambda and got my MA in classical acting. So I studied a lot of Shakespeare and was living in the UK, and that was awesome. And then I moved to Los Angeles in 2019, right after graduation, and booked Resident Evil right after I moved. Like a couple months after I moved to LA, I booked this job, which is insane.
That's amazing. So how did you learn about the role, and what was the audition process like?
Well, I found I was unrepresented at the time. And so I was just combing through what are called casting breakdown sites, and happened to see a casting breakdown that fit the specs. I fit the specs for. They were looking for a woman that was tall. And I was like, well, hi, that's me. And it was really exciting because so often my height is the thing that rules me out of a job. So to have the opportunity for my height to be the thing that actually can book me the job was really exciting. And then so I submitted for the audition. Then you find out if you get the audition. So I got the audition, I looked at the sides, and I realized that the sides and the language, and I feel that this is still true in the game itself, is very Shakespearean. It's very heightened. These stakes are really high and these characters are really big and bold. So coming off of my Shakespeare degree, that all felt really familiar. And the theater, the audition itself, and I'd say that auditions for mocap and performance capture in general feel to me a bit more like theater, which is where I was coming from, because you have more freedom to use your body and use the space and figure out ways to interact with the space. So all of that felt really familiar. So I was able to go into that first audition and I was like, oh, I know how to do this. I totally got this. Let's just go in, let's have fun. And that's what I did. And I left, you know, you never know if you've booked. So you just leave the audition. You're like, okay, great. That was awesome. Moving on with my life. If you call me, great. If you don't, great. Then I got the callback. The callback was a little bit more improv based, which again was super fun for me because it was just playtime. So they had me work through a variety of different scenarios that they gave me on the spot and sort of investigating more what her physical movement profile would be and testing that out. And so again, it was just so fun. The whole time it was just really, really fun. Yeah. And then I got the call that I booked it. And the whole process takes so long. I'd almost like forgotten that I even auditioned in the first place when I got the call that I booked, which is hilarious. And had no idea what I had booked or what I had auditioned for. Oftentimes these breakdowns are fake with fake sides that I was auditioning with, different character names. So I had no clue what I booked until I arrived on the job and was like, oh, I think this is a much bigger deal than I thought. Cool.
And how much of that character, how much of like your performance came from like either Capcom's direction, or was it more like you putting yourself, like putting your own thoughts and your own sort of ideas into the character?
I think Capcom was really great about allowing the actors to bring their creativities to the role. That being said, a lot of the choices that I decided to make were heavily influenced by the character design that Capcom created. So it really was a joint process, I'd say. I think a lot of what I brought into the audition, I brought into the volume where we record all this stuff. So I think that a lot of what I was doing initially is carried over into the final product of the game. In terms of her character design, what I love about it is that you can look at her, you can look at a picture of her, and already she tells such a clear visual story. So the second I looked at the character design for Lady D, I had so many ideas of who she was and what I could do with her. She's very elegant and regal and composed. But then what I brought in was that kind of potential for violence. She really needed to feel dangerous. So you had to have the regal exterior, but underneath, something different had to be pulsing underneath so that she would feel really volatile and dangerous. And you never knew what she was capable of. You just knew it was immense.
So we're almost a year on from the release of Resident Evil Village, and you know, it seems in that time Lady Dimitrescu has completely broken the internet in that time. So in the year since it's come out, how have you found the reception for that character, and why do you think she became so popular?
I think her popularity was probably a perfect storm. We were in the middle of the pandemic and everyone was sitting around at home, and this fabulous woman happens to grace our screens. And I think it was just right place, right time. I think a lot of this for me feels right place, right time. I feel very lucky that it all happened this way. And certainly when I went into the game, I had no expectations for any of this. I was just happy to be booking one of my very first jobs, and as a professional actor and in Los Angeles, and just trying to do my best work. I had no preconceived notions about what the outcome of that work would be. And towards the end of the process, I think people started to hint at me that they thought this character might be really well received by the fans. But well received is an understatement compared to what actually happened. It was so insane to watch that because I was still under NDA. I had not been announced yet, so I couldn't say anything. And I was just watching the internet blow up, and friends of mine who are gamers freak out over Lady D, and I couldn't tell them that it was me. And I was just waiting, listening to them creeping in the shadows of the internet. Yeah, I remember there was one friend of mine that once my name was finally released, he texted me and he was like, I can't believe this. I've been simping over Lady D for months, and now I find out that it's you, and now it's awkward.
That's amazing. You've won numerous awards for your performance. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
What's that been like? That must have been very surreal.
So surreal. I just cannot emphasize enough how completely unexpected this all was and is to me. I had no idea that any of this would be possible. I was just a starter actor who had just moved to LA after her fancy graduate degree with big hopes and big dreams and a small bank account. And so much has changed. It is surreal because this role, this game has really changed my life in a very tangible way.
So you mentioned, like, you know, your background in singing and theatre and the Shakespearean aspects of that being able to carry over quite well to your performance as Lady Dimitrescu. But what were the challenges that you faced when you were performing her?
Well, it's interesting. Performance capture simultaneously felt very familiar because it has so many roots and ties into theater and live performance, where you are telling a physical story and you're using your body to tell the story rather than all of these external cues like hair, makeup, costume, set pieces. They can't create the world for you. You have to create the world in your imagination, which is very familiar to theater. The differences are when you add in the technical components. So performance capture to me feels very much like a blend of theater and TV and film, because you have that live component and then you have the really technical component where there are just certain parameters that you have to work around and with. So I had to learn all of that. And that was completely new. You're wearing these weird spacesuits. You have a weird helmet on your head with a massive camera right in front of your face. So, you know, you're trying to do scenes with people and there's a massive fixture in front of your eyeballs. And, and so all of that took some getting used to. And I had to learn with different technical components, there's just different, the goals for certain things are different. So for instance, in the ADR booth one time, I remember having the realization they were having me do ADR to an image from, or a clip from the game. And then my dialogue, my line, I had one line and it came in towards the end and I did it and I kind of waited and I watched when her mouth moved. And then I was like, here's my line. I'm saying it with you. And then I realized that that wasn't what they were asking me to do. What they're asking me to do is create the sound profile of the world from the beginning of the clip to the end. So then we had to do it again. And I was like, okay, let me add in some like breathing or grunting or, you know, whatever kind of effort noises I could add in before the line even arrives so that I can tell a clearer story. So it was learning those different connections like that once if you've never done it before, then you just don't know. But once you know, you're like, oh, great. Yeah, I'll just do that. That's great. So learning those things. And certainly it's very strange to act in a scene with an obstruction on your face. And what that also means is hilarity can ensue. Nothing can cross in front of the camera on your face. So if I'm smoking a cigarette, as my character does, that has to happen on the outside. Or if I put on the lipstick, that had to happen on the outside of that camera. Or when I suck Ethan Winter's blood, I was like, hi, Todd, nice to meet you. And I had to mime all of that. So you cannot enter the volume with any sort of ego because it strips you of that immediately. You are doing the weirdest stuff and you look so strange and you just have to surrender to the experience and dive in and go for it.
Amazing. On that, what was your favorite line to record in the game?
I have a very clear memory of this. I think it was, oh shoot. I'd say I have a clear memory and then I can't remember what it was. I think more blood. That was really fun. A lot of her crazy lines at the end were very fun for me. There was one line, and I can't remember if it made it into the game, but it was something like, oh God, oh, I hate myself. Okay, it was something like, look at my wings, I'm more beautiful than Mother Miranda, see, or something like that.
Behold my glorious wings! I surpass even Mother!
I remember that because I was absolutely insane when I delivered it. And then I looked over in the booth, and our producer and our cinematics director, Steve Kniebly, are sitting there, and Steve is just shaking his head. And then he presses the intercom button. He's like, Maggie, you're crazy. And I was like, yeah, yeah, cool.
Amazing. One line that always stuck out to me was after Ethan kills the daughters, and she goes like, "What did you do to my daughters?" Like, I always felt so bad for her.
What have you done to my daughter?
I agree. And I love the fact that she's a mom. I think that's genius because it really humanizes her and it adds a lot of dimension to her as a villain. She has an intense loyalty and an intense love to her daughters. And once they're killed, she loses sight of Mother Miranda's endgame.
No, Mother Miranda. Yes, of course, I understand the importance of the ceremony. I won't let you down. To hell with the ceremony!
And is just grieving and seeking vengeance. And I think that that's really powerful to witness somebody going through that.
Just going back to like what we were saying before about her kind of exploding over the internet. You know, there's been a lot of fan content like TikToks and cosplays and memes and things like that. Is there anything in particular that stood out to you as particularly iconic?
All of it. I don't know. As a tall girl, I thought the tall memes were really amusing because I've heard those a million times. And so I was like, oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, and I love mashups too. And I'm a big nerd myself. So anything that mashes up different nerddoms that I'm a part of, I was a fan of. So like the Game of Thrones, is the big lady still here?
The big woman still here?
That one was hilarious. I saw somebody who made a Godzilla poster, but it was Lady D. I thought that was hilarious. I loved the little the puppet show that Capcom released as a part of their marketing campaign. I thought that was adorable. I was so into that. And I watched it in Japanese and I didn't understand a word, but I was like giggling. I was having the best time. It was a blast.
What would your dream project be to work on, screen acting or video game?
Oh God, anything Lord of the Rings. And I know I've kind of missed the boat because they're already making the series, but hey, maybe Galadriel needs a mom. I'm just saying.
Season 2, you know.
Season 2, you never know. You heard it here. Trust me.
Video games, anything there that you'd like to appear in?
So many cool ones. There are so many cool worlds that have been built. I think God of War is really cool. Me personally, I'm a big fantasy nerd. I grew up reading fantasy books and that was kind of my niche. So anything that skews more that direction, I'm so here for. So God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice was the most stunning game I've ever seen. I think I sat down to watch, I told myself, oh, you're only going to watch a few minutes of the cutscenes to get an idea of it. And I sat down and I watched the whole 4-hour YouTube video. I could not look away. It was so beautiful, the way that they've built that character and the way that they've talked about mental illness and mental health and taken the players through that experience with her, I think is so cool. So I'd love to be part of projects like that that are really breaking down boundaries and showing life through different lenses in a really immediate way. I think that's really cool.
I completely agree. And I'm really glad that you mentioned Hellblade because that's one of my favorite games.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
Would you like to discuss any upcoming projects that you're working on, if you can?
The if you can is the big caveat. I don't currently have anything that I am able to talk about, but there should be some fun stuff coming down the line. I'm very excited to be in London soon for the BAFTA Awards. I'm just a world traveler now. I'm about to go to Kuwait for a con. I'm so excited about that as well. I cannot wait to experience a whole new country and meet all these new people. I love that stuff. I really love travel. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm very excited to go to London for the BAFTA Awards. And I also am trying to do more music stuff this year, not really again with any intention or expectation of outcome. It's just a passion project for me because I love it and it makes me happy. So I'm hoping to do more with that. And I'm very excited about that too.